Hey guys, it's Walker Dybel from Buy Then Build, and today we're going to talk about the 4 different ways that you can practice acquisition entrepreneurship. Right? So there's 4 paths, and as a result, most people don't even understand that there's 4 paths. And what happens is that they might get overweighted in information around a certain channel and think that it sort of defines acquisition entrepreneurship, when in fact there's sort of a choose your own adventure component to it, right? So, um, the first and potentially the most uncommon is going to be sort of like, the kind of advertised buy a business with no money down kind of a thing, right? There's certainly advanced ways to do that, and it usually comes from just sort of being in the space and being able to take advantage of deals like that when you're in the right place at the right time. But it's very uncommon for a first-time buyer to run out and buy a business with no personal guarantee, no money down, and whatever. And it seems to be a very popular route in terms of online marketers trying to sell online courses. And kind of the profile of the deal, though, is you look for kind of sub-$1 million transaction value companies, and you look for something that you get to add a lot of value to, and you sort of approach them and say, like, hey, instead of compensating me in money, maybe you can compensate me in terms of stock, and that would be called like an earn-in, right? Or another and more common sort of exact goal would be to sort of find that mature business where it's not really transferable on the open marketplace, and so it isn't selling, but it tried to sell, or one of the 4 Ds, which is there's death or divorce or drugs or depression. There's a 4th D, something like that. And the point is they like a business owner falls on ungood times and sort of has to sell, or right. So they either get stuck, or the business is untransferable, or you're sort of able to apply a service that you can offer or bring in exchange for equity. And so that's how you sort of like get equity in a smaller company with no money down. Number 2 is that's growing. The fastest growing in popularity is going to be your search fund model, right? And so this is sort of like kind of like all of the organized people that gather at top universities, and they're starting to get institutional capital around these types of investments, where an acquisition entrepreneur can raise money around a search fund, which will then allow them to search for a business full time while also earning an income, right? And the investors are going to get a step up in earnings. And so let's say, for example, they raise $330,000 to run a search for 24 months. That $330,000 gets doubled not doubled, but increased by 50%. And so the investors of the $330,000 then get the first $500,000 in equity in the business that the searcher ultimately buys. Those investors also get the option, but not the obligation, to invest in the entity. And so it enables a searcher to actually buy a business that's much bigger than what they could achieve on their own. The average right now is about 13 million transaction value. The downside is you only get like between 6 and 25% equity, and usually triggered by milestones, right? And so these are really fueled by the top MBA programs and the people around them. And so it's kind of an institutional version of being able to search for a business and buy one. It's a great way to do it, and right for the right type of person. Then you get the sort of independent sponsor, okay? And this is going to be, again, slightly larger deals. It's going to be sort of let's just say 15 to 25 million is where these deals exist, and north of that. I mean, before I even saw terms forming around independent sponsorship, these deals were happening between 50 and 100 million, so they happen. But the concept here is that it works like a private equity firm, except there's not a pre-raised fund, right? So it's a searcher who goes out and is basically looking for a deal with an operator in place. Usually the seller will stay on with a piece of equity, it's got a team in place. that individual, that independent sponsor, can then raise capital around the deal, and then they can buy that company with the plan to grow it over 3 to 5 years and exit, right? But the plan there usually with an independent sponsor is that they're not really looking to buy one business. They're really looking to form what would be a parallel or analogous to a private equity fund, right? So they're looking to do multiple companies that they can buy and be a piece of with institutional capital from private equity firms. The concept being that if they can kind of bird dog a deal that the private equity firm wouldn't otherwise find, or be able to show, hey, I've got this deal with me and the operating team in place. So we've got the operations in place, and so it's a little bit of a smaller deal than you would otherwise consider, but it's a good opportunity nevertheless, and we can get this done for you. And that's sort of the pitch to the private equity funds. And then the fourth is one that I really write about, right, which is sort of like your acquisition entrepreneur, or what a search fund community might call a self-funded searcher. And the concept here is simply like the business is smaller than, say, a search fund, but larger than that sub-$1 million category, right? So it's usually between like $1 million and $5 million in transaction value. And from other videos we've talked about sort of like capital has never been this easy to get. The fact that baby boomers are retiring at 11,000 a day, and that there's $10 trillion in business value that needs to change hands, right? The highest volume of these deals are going to be between $1 million and $5 million in transaction value, okay? So that's going to be somewhere between like, let's just say $300,000 in discretionary earnings, up to, let's say sub $2 million, right? So this is where I've really built my career, in the sort of like, $350,000 to $1.5 million in discretionary earnings or adjusted EBITDA. And that's going to be the range where you can come in with a cash infusion, usually a small seller note, and then a big loan, primarily from the Small Business Administration, in order to come in and buy a business outright, okay? If I don't own 100% of the company, I usually own 80 or 81%. I think that is the least I've owned would be in that range. And so these are the four paths of acquisition entrepreneurship, and I wanted to share this because depending where you're getting your source of information, it might kind of weigh to one side or the other, right? So there's online communities out there that are all about search funds, and they use that language, and again, I embrace the search fund so much. I wish it was around in 2004 when I was graduating with my MBA. But then on the other hand, you might be getting hit by online marketers trying to sell courses, right, in terms of how to buy a business with no money down. Also a totally appropriate avenue, a great way to sort of incrementally grow your business through sub-$1 million acquisitions, especially if you don't have to pay through anything. The thing there is that you're using a lot of your time and a lot of your labor, and it's totally inefficient. And so I think that if you're familiar with my material, you'll see that I'm an advocate for the acquisition entrepreneur to be self-funded, to sort of bootstrap the experience, and to go out and really leverage brokers in a one-to-many fashion to get deal flow quicker, and ultimately buy a business in a straight-up fashion, in a way that is the fastest point from point A to point B to getting you into a business that you own outright, that you can run as CEO, and that you can use as a vehicle, or for a vehicle to build your own wealth, or a platform for building the company that you want to see. Thanks so much. See you soon.